Morning, Grand Rising. Welcome to PARACONOMY Inc. It's 8:56, 3/13, 2025. Hope you guys had a good morning. I like to wake up and keep a little journal of how much progress that I've made in my life and keep my thoughts positive. It's so easy to let go and focus on what you don't have. But let's not start the day with a lot of heavy misjudgments and name calling, shall we? Grand Rising, everybody. Just waking up here. Trying to be a smooth operator, you know? And, yeah, sometimes you just gotta get her in ya and keep it in ya. Listen, a little bit of YouTube lo-fi here. Really solid jump start here. And here at Paraconomy, we like to follow through with the motto of keep a good thing good. You're in a good mood, you have a good outlook, we have good weather, you know. So we're here to keep a good thing good and make sure we make a bad thing better here at Paraconomy Inc. See? Soul isn't even awake. Already getting battered by insults by Doop Doop. Watch out, guys. You're using Doop Doop. 8:58. Oven's ready. Somebody wanted the fire. Yeah. So, back to what I was saying earlier about privilege and royalties, and how privileges, and very often in the movies and stories, are often worn with some like disconcern and some amount of like naivete. Like people are just like, they're well aware who they are in the movies and stuff like Prince and the Pauper or other things like that. The people who assume the privilege of royalty or whatever are like usually stricken with this dumbfoundedness that comes along with some of the coasting. And if the people are coasting, the villagers, right? If the royals are coasting their whole life, the villagers are the ones to pull them down from the pedestal. And when you have the power to maintain peace every day in front of people that don't have your best interest, or, you know, they will try to bat at it and bat it down so that they feel powerful. And it has very little to do with the royals at all. And it has everything to do with hierarchy and how we perceive control. So it doesn't even, but then it always bleeds into the materialism. But as you can see, it has real life consequences for these characters. They don't just have this internal dialogue and nothing happens with it. It always seems to be this exploitation or sort of permeation of the inner dialogue reaching the outside so that the people can see their valor, because there's a shallow end of what people assume you're capable of. Oh, excuse me. Still waking up. There's that shallow end where people feel like you haven't lived to the same thresholds of extremism or radicalism, and that because you didn't deal with it the way they would have dealt with it, they want to look at how little you have and make judgments off of that out of their insecurities, because that ends up being the big magnet here. Is there's the one that's secure and the many that are very insecure. And materialism is like that. But also, that's control. That's the fight for control. And it always seems to be that the villagers end up with more than they can chew off. As in, what they thought was shallow ends up being something on them, a loss on their judgments of how they appear. They see the material. They don't see the metaphysical or the metamorphosis of like the inner work. And the words are reactive. And that's how you know that it's premeditated. "9:03 a.m. 3/13/2025." Yep. So misjudgments and insults that are hurled at vanity are often premeditated. People size you up before they even get to know you, right? That's usually that whole story, Prince and the Pauper type deal, is everybody assumes things are just as cosmetic and face value as they appear to be, and that there isn't any map for the detail that stretches from the exterior to the interior, as in there's no connection for people. And comfort is a very real luxury in the real world. And when you give off the atmosphere that you're even a little comfortable, but you're important, it makes sense that people will quickly try to douse you with insults and try to take your crown. And that if you don't, "Come on, king, don't you know we're starving peasants? I just had the worst sleep on a bed of rocks I could have ever wanted. I'm gonna kick your ass," you know? So it's obviously this outlook where people aren't keeping themselves preoccupied, and it starts to become habitual of, well, what's comfort, right? And that's, my mom's just like that too. My mom's very much, if I'm in control because I'm comfortable, but it's because I'm peaceful, then it makes sense that other people around me, my opposition and my my life, because it does seem to be that it's everybody against me these days. And I think that comes from this lack of willingness to discharge your own inner working, because if that is how you basically get to the mecca of royalty and getting that much comfort, then there is a lack of understanding as to why it exists at all in the first place. And many times it comes down on clear order of what it is at all. So stay organized. Stay organized and mind your work, because if God's given you work and you ignore it, then it makes sense that you're never going to get your gifts. And so, on that level, if you never work on yourself, you never feel free from your strife. And that's something that everybody gets. And the more we open it up and kind of maintain and groom our own inner workings, the cleaner it comes out and the less discourse and friction is facilitated. And that's just something that I've been kind of like thinking about here while I wake up daily to my really trashy neighbors and family members and fellow citizens. I'm glad I have good ones. Yeah, I'm glad there are still good ones that are like kind of playing it right. I wish I had more of those in my life, especially now. And you have to make that for yourself. You can't just zorp good energy off of other people like that. You have to maintain it and foresee it. You have to say, I'm feeling sparse, or I'm feeling the abstract nothingness of my own life and what I can utilize metaphysically that's outside of me but also within me, and how I can make that look the best. And it does come down to taste and art and creation in that sense, because no one's giving you a good day. You perceive the moment in the now, and you dictate your role and the future that you play, Kate, against reality, which all the time things are ever changing, and reality is going to give you a new bag to like order and stuff like that. But if you're on the ball and you're consistent with positive thoughts and affirmations that can trickle into your face, even, that, yes, pallbearer, you end up with this sort of homage to that comfort, right? Because we're talking about how people perceive comfort as high value alongside of a perception of 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 power, and power intimidates people, which is why it always ends up on the royals. So that's where, if you find out that you're kind of special, or whatever it is that you have, that, yeah, if you find out you're special, wouldn't you want to keep that safe? And if you can do it now, wouldn't you start? So what's keeping you and holding you back from having less of a bad attitude in the face of beauty? When there's so much comfort and so much beauty to be had in the moment. You have time, utilize it, space out. When things are right. And when you have the patience to space out with reality, people will notice. I've been teaching my parents this for the past decade or so. Well, I've been smoking weed and doing psychedelics and stuff like that. And they just don't approve. It's not something they are looking to have comfort in, or control, or power. And if they are, they've done it without my consent and or my favor. So that could go awry. But that's kind of just, that's the dice roll of the bag that you might end up pulling. Most people sit away from the attempt. And I think that's sort of maybe something I've been able to pull from the athleticism that I've emulated from my cousin Jeremy for quite some time. He was in an Iron Man, a couple of them now, and like some Tough Mudders, and lots of running and stuff like that. So I see him and I look up to him, and that's probably something that all my haters and oppositions don't really care as much. Because there's an athletics team right down the road, and they think it's so boring and middle of the road, and that inertia from being active and healthy isn't also connected to what happens on the inside for peace and activity and creativity. So, yes, live in the now, live in the moment, and seize the day. Find your inner lion and let that thing out and roaring for the day, and let it know that everything's going to be taken care of. And that you make your own opportunities, you make your own future, you make your own enemies. I invited all my enemies straight into my apartment. And now they feel like they have the upper hand in understanding my life, right? But they're not. They're just lazy. If they had done the work, it wouldn't be. There'd be people here, but there's never people here. There's only. It's just me, as an. Let's be realistic here. I'm like a clairvoyant antenna, and I can hear people pontificating and insulting each other and thinking. But I've done a lot of work to get there. A lot of meditating. And pacing. And as long as you get to the epiphany at all, it doesn't matter how little work that you do, as long as you fill in the rear. But it first starts with having that purity of mind and keeping your thoughts positive and keeping the peace and the comfort within the day. I couldn't teach Candela Sweet how to have tranquil mornings. And in fact, every day she was here, she would start yapping and even like being loud within the first dude, it was the first 5 minutes every day. She only took 5 minutes every day to get herself right. And it's I attribute it clear as day that there's not enough patience on willing to do the inner work, which is why they're currently monitoring me using stones and crystals and ESP and religion and paranormal phenomenons that you might find in the Pentagon's pocketbook. But hey, if you knew more about what's going on behind closed doors, I feel like that'd make you feel a lot more comfortable too. So it's it's a stoicism that's firmly planted in those things. And it's kind of why I'm a high value target, is I'm capable of bringing this atmosphere along with my decision making that's observable, and that adding more good to a situation, much like I'm doing 919, and showcasing control is how you're able to help design and push forward your own inertia of self-control. And that perhaps anger management would mean less to me today, knowing that's all that they're attempting to standardize. Now, let's be real. I'm on the run right now for aggravated assault and attempted murder. Neither of which those things are what I wanted to do at all. And in fact, I was the one, and there was no witnesses. It's stupid. It's literally a pill popper's opinion who goes to the psych ward being favored over mine simply because it got put on the wrong way for me on purpose, right? When all I was trying to do was show that having self-control here in the now, as soon as you wake up, is one of the only things you need to maintain, is that consistency. And pairing that with anger or pressure can give you a different type of an outlook on control and self-control and discipline. The only reason I have so much comfort and peace here on my inside is because I am disciplined. It's the only reason why I'm not waking up blaming other people every day. And it's something that people are currently attempting to source away from people like me in order to have recognition of control. It's a big one, I know. Maturity, virtues, control, discipline. Right? Gotta breathe through your nose, your nostrils. Mine are all clogged up. There we go. Know about the overhead and obstacles. You know, what's going to tax you today? How much of them can you handle? Don't take any more than you can handle. Before you get all worked up in the wrong way, while you still can. And nothing makes sense, right? You just woke up. I've been up for about half hour, and there's enough to be disciplined towards. And in my opinion, that's worlds better than any amount of stress that it would take for me to get out to an anger management course. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Buddhist. I'm like a practicing, meditating, monkhood Buddhist. And one of the 300 Buddhas that currently exist on this planet as well. There's about like 350 Buddhas. Yeah. There's a good handful of Buddhas, but according to Buddhism, there are several instances of like Buddhahood. Mine starts at Christmas 1990 and isn't exemplified consistently in a lot of places. High school it was for a little bit. People kind of knew, but they didn't know, right? And now people clearly know what is going on with my life, and they're all in denial. So remind yourself, you can't control people here. You can't control what people want. Even if you're Buddha. Yeah. But remind people how easy it is to live a good life. And sometimes you just gotta slow down. And soak it up. Soak up all that discipline and apply it peacefully. Yep. Healthy body, healthy mind. Healthy mind, healthy body. Yeah. So stay healthy, everybody. It's 9/26, 3/13, 2025. Stay disciplined up here. And love yourself here. Feel it all through your chakrals. Head to floor. Ceiling to floor, head to toe. You know, so stay in control of your anger. Stay in control of yourself and your thoughts and your actions. And give yourself room to fail forward. It's so simple, but easily misstepped on people. Don't let them pull you back down.